Mama, have you ever noticed how quickly your mood can shift during the summer? One minute you're making breakfast, the next you're breaking up an argument, and then someone's asking for a snack, and then someone's telling you that they're bored. And before you know it, you're feeling overwhelmed, irritated, and snapping at the people that you love most. Then guilt rushes in, and you tell yourself that you'll do better tomorrow. You'll be more patient, more calm, more present. But somehow you keep finding yourself in the same cycle. If that's you, today's episode is for you. Because summer doesn't create emotions, it often reveals the emotions we've already been carrying all along. Today we're continuing our summer emotional regulation series and talking about awareness and acknowledgement of our emotions. Because before we can change how we respond, we have to become aware of what's actually happening inside us. And Mama, that awareness might be one of the greatest gifts you give yourself this summer. Mama, are you tired of meltdowns stealing the peace in your home? Welcome to Parenting Beyond Meltdowns. I'm Amanda, a Christian life coach and a mom of a strong-willed neurospicy teen. If you've tried everything from consequences, parenting books, crying out to the Father, and still feel like you're failing, you're not alone. Inside this podcast, we'll explore how faith, emotional regulation, and connection work together so that you can parent from a place of peace, even in the hardest moments. You don't have to hold it all together here. This is a safe space to lay it all down. Welcome. Mama, I know you're tired. You're tired of promising yourself that you'll be more patient and then finding yourself reacting again. Tired of carrying the guilt after another hard day. Tired of feeling like everyone needs something from you all of the time. Tired of sibling arguments, the constant snack requests, the pushback, the meltdowns, the feeling like you're giving everything you have and it's still not enough. And maybe you're tired of wondering why you keep reacting the way that you do. That's exactly why I'm hosting a free workshop on July 7th at 7 p.m. Central. It's called Stuck in Survival Mode this summer: How to Stop Reacting and Rebuild Connection with Your Child. Because I don't believe that you are meant to spend the entire summer just trying to make it to bedtime. In this workshop, I'm going to help you understand what's happening beneath the reactions, why survival mode keeps showing up, and practical steps that you can take to begin creating more peace, more connection, and more confidence in your parenting. If you're tired of feeling stuck in the same cycle, I'd love for you to join me. You can reserve your seat at amandacalfee.com/workshop. That's AMANDACALFEE.com/WORKSHOP. You can also find the link in today's show notes. There was a time that I felt like a pressure cooker. My child's big emotions would hit, and mine would explode right along with them. I prayed, I read Christian parenting books, I cried in the shower, I sought advice from friends, and yet nothing seemed to work. What I didn't realize was that my own emotions weren't the enemy. They were simply unprocessed. They were stacking up like rocks inside of a heavy backpack I was carrying everywhere I went. And every time my child had a hard moment, it felt like another rock was added. Every meltdown felt heavier. Every argument felt bigger. Every day felt harder. And honestly, summer would have been one of the hardest seasons for me back then, because summer has a way of exposing what's already there. During the school year, we're busy, we're rushing from one thing to the next, we're surviving, but summer comes, the kids are home, the routines have changed, the noise level increases, the snack requests are never ending, and someone is always touching you, needing you, or asking you for something. And suddenly you find yourself reacting more than you'd like, not because you're failing, but because summer often reveals what we've been carrying all along. When I learned how to notice, allow, and process my emotions instead of stuffing them down or trying to fix them, something shifted. I became calmer, my child felt safer, and connection began to grow. Mama, if you've been feeling overwhelmed, reactive, or exhausted this summer, I don't want you to rush into judging yourself. I want you to get curious, because your emotions may be trying to tell you something important. I'm reminded of Matthew 11:28 and 29, where Yeshua says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Last week, we looked at how our thoughts directly shape your parenting, especially during those meltdown moments. And I want to add something before we move forward. If you're struggling to identify your thoughts, ask yourself this question: what sentence does my brain keep repeating? What is the thought that's on repeat? Maybe it's, this summer is going to be exhausting. I can't do this all day, every day. Why is everything such a fight? Nothing is changing. Why does this have to be so hard? Those repeated sentences are your thoughts. I'm inviting you to become aware of them because your thoughts create your emotions, and those emotions drive the actions that we do or don't take in our lives, and more specifically, in our relationship with our child. Today, we're moving into the next piece of that process, our emotions. As we dive into emotions, I want to start with an observation. I think many of us, especially in church circles, have been conditioned to believe that emotions are bad, that emotions aren't trustworthy, and that feeling something difficult means that we're doing something wrong. Newsflash, Yeshua had emotions. He wept, he grieved, he sweat blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. He became angry when he saw what the money changers were doing in his father's house. And while I absolutely agree that we should not allow our emotions to lead our lives, I would ask, can we listen to what they're trying to tell us? Today, I want to propose something. What if your emotions are actually one of your greatest assets? What if your emotions are one of the ways that the Father is providing important information about what's happening inside of you? Our emotions are energy that fuels every action that we take, the vehicle through which we experience life. What if I told you that in order to expand your life, you also had to expand your willingness to feel all of your emotions? The desirable ones, the undesirable ones, yes, even the emotions we'd rather avoid. What I want to teach you today, and what I believe would best serve you, is how to be okay with all of your emotions, to be fully human. We have been fed a lie that we're supposed to be happy all of the time, that if we're frustrated, sad, overwhelmed, or anxious, that something must be wrong. But that's not how life works, and honestly, that's not how Scripture works either. We are not created to only experience positive emotions. We were created to experience all of them, even the ones that are labeled as negative or ones we'd rather avoid. Often you feel stuck. It's because you're not allowing your emotions to actually flow through you. I think about a typical summer day. Your child argues with a sibling before breakfast. You feel frustrated. You push it down. Someone complains about what's for lunch. You feel irritated. You push it down. A child refuses a chore. You feel annoyed. You push it down. Someone is crying. Someone else is bored. The house is loud. You're overstimulated. You feel overwhelmed, and you push that down too. And then by dinner time, you're wondering why you're snapping at everyone and crying in the pantry, maybe with a box of chocolates. Nothing is wrong with you. You've simply been carrying emotions all day without acknowledging them. Let's start at the beginning. What are emotions? Emotions are simply vibrations in your body. They move through when they're allowed to. Most of us don't allow them. We suppress them. And when we suppress them, they often show up later as tension, headaches, burnout, resentment, anxiety, or emotional outbursts. Your thoughts create emotional energy. Those vibrations begin in your mind and move through your body, and that energy fuels your life. Your internal experience of life is largely shaped by how you think about your external experiences. And as I've said before, emotional energy can become trapped, and your body is incredibly willing to store it. It's fascinating how our bodies remember things, sometimes even when we don't. A doctor once told me that when people come off of medications that suppress emotions, that they can experience very intense emotional pain because they're finally feeling emotions that have been sitting there for years waiting to be processed. It's amazing how our bodies were designed. And it's also why emotional resilience matters so much. Because if we're unwilling to process our emotions, eventually we will pay the price in our bodies, in our relationships, and often in our connection with the people we love most. I want to pause here and remind you of something important. Your emotions are not good or bad. They're messengers. That's all they are, messengers. Just like behavior is communication, your emotions are communication too. Frustration might be trying to tell you that you're exhausted. Overwhelm might be trying to tell you that you've been carrying too much. Resentment might be trying to tell you that you need support. Anxiety might be pointing towards something that you're trying to control that isn't yours to control. The emotion itself isn't the problem. The emotion is simply the messenger. The question is, are we willing to listen? And Mama, summer gives us plenty of opportunities to practice listening because summer often reveals what's already there. Maybe you're finding yourself more reactive than you'd like, more irritated than usual, more overwhelmed by things that normally wouldn't bother you. Before you judge yourself, I want you to get curious. What if your emotions are trying to tell you something? What if they're giving you information that you've been missing? Today we've talked about becoming aware of the thoughts that you think on repeat and the emotions they create. We've talked about how emotions are not something to fear, that they're not something to suppress, they're not something to judge. They're simply messengers, information, and awareness is the first step towards emotional regulation. This week isn't about fixing anything. It's about paying attention, gathering information, and becoming aware of what's happening inside of you. Because you can't change what you don't notice, and awareness is where freedom begins. Our micro shift this week, I want you to set aside 3 minutes each day, maybe after a hard moment, a meltdown, a sibling argument, or just plain feeling overwhelmed. And I want you to ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? What emotion is that thought creating? Where do I feel it in my body? No judgment, no fixing, no trying to make it go away, just noticing. Because awareness is where emotional regulation begins. And Mama, remember, you don't have to do this perfectly. You just have to begin noticing. Next week, we're going to be talking about something that many of us were never taught, and that's how to actually allow an emotion without stuffing it, fixing it, distracting ourselves from it, or pushing it away. Because awareness is the first step, but awareness alone isn't what lightens the backpack. Mama, if today's episode had you nodding your head and thinking, yep, that's me, I want to personally invite you to join me for my free workshop, Stuck in Survival Mode this summer, How to Stop Reacting and Rebuild Connection with Your Child. We'll be live together on Tuesday, July 7th at 7 p.m. Central because awareness is the first step, but awareness isn't the finish line. If you don't want August to feel like June, I'd love for you to join me. You can reserve your free seat at amandacalfee.com/workshop. That's amandacalfee.com/WORKSHOP or find the link in today's show notes. Last week, I mentioned that I put a new link in the show notes for you to be able to ask me any questions. And I realized partway through the week that somehow a different link got added there instead of the actual link to send you to be able to ask questions. So that has been fixed. So if you are wanting to go leave me a message, you can do that via video, audio, or text using the link that is now correctly put in the show notes. And using that link, you can ask if you have any questions about coaching the workshop, if you'd like to give me ideas of show topics that you'd like me to cover. I would love to hear from you. Or if there's anything that you've been practicing from the podcast that has been beneficial to you and your family, I'd just love to hear. You can use that link in today's show notes. Hey, sweet mama, I hope you loved today's episode. Can you do me a favor? If this episode spoke to your heart, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mama in your life who needs to know they are not alone? Also, would you leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts for me? It blesses my heart to know that this show is giving you hope in hard moments. All right, I'm off to grab some protein because love and grace flows easier when you're not just running on fumes and coffee. I'll meet you back here next week for another honest and hope-filled conversation. In the meantime, Mama, stay rooted in faith and anchored in love.